Has anyone ever told you that talking to you is like talking to a wall? Well, now you can personify that. Hi again. Today's tutorial is, a little weird. I wanted to do another Stranger Things tutorial, but the Demogorgon has been done already a lot. I still wanted to incorporate it though, so I was like, what's the next most thing that is synonymous with Stranger Things? The wall! So I made myself a wall. So if you want to see how I made this little guy, and then transformed myself into the weirdest wallflower you ever did see, keep watching. Let's start with the Demogorgon. First I laid baking paper on my chest and traced the limits onto it, so I wasn't sculpting something too big. Then I sketched out my Demogorgon design, and I sculpted it on top of this sketch with plasticine, trying to make as few undercuts as possible. Then I covered this sculpt in Vaseline, put it in a container, and filled any deep crevasses in the sculpt with hot glue. Then I packed the container with plasticine so I didn't have to use all the gelatin that exists in the world. And I ended up still not having enough, but the beauty of gelatin is that you can remelt it. So when it's set, I trimmed the excess, melted it down, and used it to fill the thinner areas. Then I pulled out my plasticine sculpt and filled in the gelatin negative with liquid latex. I did about 3 to 4 layers to make sure it was strong. Then I filled it with cotton and covered just the outside of the cotton with latex to keep it light. Then I trimmed the long petal supports and anywhere else I didn't like, and to paint it I started with a blue-grey cream paint and then shaded it with pink and brown eyeshadows. Then I filled the mouth with red Mehron Paradise paint, and using details from Mehron, I added its itty bitty tiny teeth. Now you have a cute little monster to stick wherever you want. I chose my chest. And I outline where I think it's going to go so I don't end up painting there and wasting my time. Then I fill outside this area with the lovely yellowy brown of old ass wallpaper. And I am staring at my camera because it was making this way too green. This happens a lot in this tutorial where my camera flicks between warm and cool white balances. Then I contour how I want to contour every day but can only get away with in these kind of looks, and I am using warm brown eyeshadows. I also use this eyeshadow where it's meant to go, in and around my eyelid. Ain't nothing special here. I do this eyeshadow shape in every single tutorial basically. Then I add some big fancy black brows, and by fancy I mean bad, but that's okay because the paint on the wall in Stranger Things has drips, so we can add drips over our fuck-ups. Same deal with the big old eyeliner. What are you saying that walls don't have eyeliner or eyebrows? Every wall I've seen has these features. Then I stress out about where I'm going to paint the signature part of this wall, the alphabet, and I started doing it with black, fail at doing it with black, so I outline where the letters are going to go with yellow instead. And I end up moving this around a lot too, but yellow is easy to blend back into this yellow-brown base, so it's no big deal. When I am happy enough with the yellow placement of the letters, I go in with black Paradise paint and try to duplicate the lettering I see in the show, sand some drippiness as I add that in later. Then I fill in my lips, because walls have lips too. And I am adding the wallpaper design. It's not super clear what the design is, but I ain't about unnecessary detailing, just add the pattern that gives off the feel of the wall. You just gotta get the vibe, man. I use a green, brown, grey mix for the leaves of my wallpaper design, and just add some dots and lines in a fern kind of vine-like pattern. This ain't super important. Then I add some rose kind of shapes with washed out pink. It's a pink mixed with an orange and it gives off this nice faded old shade when put over the yellow base. We want this wall to look just as old and out of fashion as it does in the show. Wallpaper wasn't a thing in the 80s unless it had been there for 20 years. Well, at least in Australia. Drip time. Any fluff ups you made can be corrected by carefully positioned black drips. I do keep some of these drips the same as what I can see in the show, but I add more for the lulz and to cover up things that I don't like where the yellow text outline I made is still showing through. Then I add every wall's favourite lashes, Starri Nite by Shadow Lashes, and you can get 15% off with the code PIGEONPIE. So you too can be a snazzy wall. Then I put latex all over that empty space to adhere my little Demogorgon on. And I cover some of the edges I want more secured in latex. Then I cover around the Demogorgon in black. I do stuff up here. Don't add the black past its shoulders. You want its head and right arm to look like it's resting on the wallpaper. Well, not resting, but rather like pushing against it to burst through. Then I go around the edges with latex and adhere some torn paper. This will be a base for some tissue paper, but feel free to skip this step if you want to just use the tissue paper. And I use a popsicle stick to lay down the latex, then the tissue, then to cover it with latex. And here you see me ripping off the paper that I put in the wrong place and covering the black in a yellow-brown mix. Then I cover my pieces of paper and tissue with that same yellow-brown mix. And to give off more a pulled effect, like this is pushing out of my skin, I add some lines of latex extending from the chest burster to add ridges, like it is really pushing through the wallpaper as it bursts through. I also shade near these ridges with brown to accentuate them. The last step is to add that wallpaper pattern back onto this pulled up and burst section of the wallpaper. And then you are done, my friends. I added some Christmas lights to my hair and neck, but you should not do this as A, it's a choking hazard, and B, I could only move 3 meters to either side of my PowerPoint with these lights connected to it. If you do have a bunch of little battery lights that you could glue on, those might be better, as long as no cord is wrapping around your neck and there's no exposed wires or risk of electrocution. I just did this for photos really quickly and removed it as soon as they were taken. I definitely think aspects of this tutorial could be used for maybe painting a shirt like this and putting the Demogorgon on that, chestburster style. But that's it guys, thanks for watching. I hope you can join me for more Halloweeny looks this Pigeon Pie-tober. Stay classy peeps.